And you're welcome, Minister. Thank you for coming to the House today for this motion, which I am proposing, seconded by my colleague, Senator Catherine Arda, and the rest of the Fianna Fáil senators. The topic today is the issue of public transportation, and most importantly, safety on our public transportation. And for the benefit of the House, I'll start out by reading the motion, and then we can have some discussion. So first of all, the motion states that Seanad Éireann recognises the recent increase in antisocial behaviour on public transport across the country, that this increase is dissuading the public from utilising the transport network, our buses, our trains, our Luas, our darts, that young people, the elderly and women are particularly negatively impacted, and that this behaviour is undermining the significant public investment and funding allocated to public transportation systems by the government and the state. Seanad Éireann notes the exposure of public transport staff to regular threats of violence, which is totally unacceptable, the recent suspension from 6 p.m. of Dublin bus services in parts of its network, and reports of 35 incidents of violence, attacks, vandalism, threats with knives and other implements, and a female driver terrorised by a large mob. We also note the testimony of bus drivers to Dublin Bus Management that it is not tenable for them to risk, and I quote, life and limb driving buses to be attacked and assaulted. Truly unacceptable and very disturbing for those workers to have to express such stark and startling consequences. And so Seanad Éireann, we propose, would agree that everyone on public transport, whether they're an employee or a passenger, should be able to rely on a safe and secure system and be protected from antisocial behaviour. We further suggest that Seanad Éireann would agree that public transport is important in meeting Ireland's climate goals, and we would call for the establishment of a dedicated public transport unit within An Garda Síochána. Similar to, I suppose, we've got a road traffic unit within An Garda Síochána. An Garda Síochána is a very trusted brand generally in Irish society. Gardaí are seen as members of our community, and we believe that their remit, they are best positioned to enforce our laws, to respond to any sort of illegal activity or antisocial behaviour, and for that reason we are proposing that the Gardaí would dedicate a unit of their operations to increasing the safety and security of all of those who use our public transport system. And we're particularly conscious, I suppose, of employees, people who are working on our public transport, but also of passengers, and it's really of utmost importance to us all that everyone who uses our public transport does so with confidence and does so feeling safe and secure. But that's just not been the case in recent times. There has been increases in antisocial behaviour, and they've been well documented on public transportation, on the Luas, on buses and other forms of public transport, but it hasn't been limited just to the capital city. There's been instances of members of the public or staff who have been subjected to intimidation, harassment, bullying, and I'm really sad to say this, but also assault. And we believe the situation has become intolerable. We believe that it is well past time for the establishment of a dedicated public transport unit within An Garda Síochána. And for those who may be listening to the debate and maybe not convinced, I'm not going to labour the point too much, but I do think there are some real life examples. These are not, you know, inflated media reports, but these are real life examples, and I would reference firstly CCTV footage that I think disturbed anybody who saw it back from April of 2021, when a 17-year-old girl was seen falling from a platform onto the tracks. It was really very disturbing. The young girl and her friends, they were harassed by a group. One of the group lunged at the girls repeatedly. They found it bizarrely amusing to intimidate, harass young women like that, but they did, and the young girl fell onto the tracks. And she sustained injuries. Thankfully, none of them were physically that serious. But I think if you stop and think about the mental injuries, the emotional injuries, the trauma that has to have inflicted on that young girl and all who witnessed it. Or back in August of last year, a man was left fighting for his life after he was viciously assaulted down in the IFSC at a Lewis stop. Dublin Bus have reported hundreds of cases over the last year. More than 760 incidents involving antisocial behaviour occurred on the country's rail network. So that's our mainline rail service. And that was just during the first 6 months of 2022. And a 26-year-old man was assaulted. It was a homophobic attack. It was homophobic slurs were abused. This man was abused with homophobic slurs when he was taking a late-night bus home in August of 2022. Like, we live in a rich, civilized society. It's just unacceptable. It's just totally unacceptable. And it's totally unacceptable for the communities in this city and in other parts of our country that public transport is being withdrawn, that people working on public transportation feel unsafe going to work, don't know what they're going to experience. Their families and friends don't know if they're going to come home safe. Their employers don't know if they can guarantee their safety. And the people who want to use the public transport service, who want to do their civic duty, who want to reduce their carbon footprint, who want to make their contribution to our climate action, are doing so fearful of, will they survive the journey? Or what will they experience on the journey? It's totally unacceptable. And I'm not even going to go into the details, the obscene details of the sexual activities and sexual assaults that have taken place. I think I've painted a picture, Minister. I hope that I haven't been labour the point too much, but it is really important, I suppose, that government understands that this is a real issue for people living and working in our cities, in our towns and right across our country. And we believe that it's instances like those that I've described that are so unpleasant, potentially dangerous, that are actively discouraging people from using our public transportation. We had been hearing this, I guess, in our clinics from using public transportation, having observed it. Last year, myself and the Fianna Fáil group in Dublin City Council, in Dublin in the Parliamentary Party, we did a public transport safety survey. And we did this survey by talking to people that are public transport users and workers. And we had over 1,300 respondents to that survey. The response was overwhelming. It was an online survey, so it did actually require people to go online and take some time out of their busy lives to complete it. But they did, and there was over 1,300 respondents. 93% of those who responded witnessed antisocial behaviour on our public transportation. That's almost everyone. 9 out of 10 people who used public transportation had witnessed antisocial behaviour. 62%, 6 out of 10, don't feel safe when using public transportation in the evening. 80% don't want to use it because they feel unsafe late at night. 70%, almost 80%, support the proposal for a dedicated Garda public transport unit. And 53%, almost half, so 1 in every 2 passengers, had actually seen antisocial behaviour on a regular basis. I'm going to conclude and hand over to my colleague. Those are the results of our survey. We have many examples of public transport, effective public transport safety being provided by Gardaí and police in other jurisdictions. Minister, I hope when you come to the House today you will respond positively from the government, because we have met with the passengers, the service providers, the Gardaí. We believe that this needs political support, political championing, and we hope you will be able to provide that today. My colleague, Catherine Arda.